the Lebo Alumni, Episode 2. We've got Audrey Gordon and Jillian Hunsberger, 2014 graduates of Mount Lebanon. Let you guys do a quick little introduction of yourselves, and we'll jump into the questions.
Audrey, you go first.
All right. Alphabetical order or something.
Yeah.
I'm Audrey Gordon. Like Coach Shet said, I graduated in 2014 from Mount Lebanon, and then I went to William and Mary to run cross country and track. And then I graduated in 2018. So about 2 years out. I'm a teacher. I live in Virginia. I teach in Fairfax County, first grade, and I'm still loving running and enjoying it, and just enjoying the process, just a little bit of casual running.
Okay, I'm Jill. I also graduated in 2014. Audrey and I were teammates. It was a good time. Wish you guys could have been there. I ran for Penn State, and I graduated also in 2018. And now I live in Germany, and I'm working for Adidas. So I'll take it back to Coach Shet now.
All right. So we'll start with a couple kind of just easy, fun things, kind of quick fire stuff, and then we'll get into kind of some more longer conversation things. So first of all, what was your favorite and least favorite high school cross country course you ran on?
Least favorite home course.
I was gonna say the same thing. Except I liked that it was a little bit shorter, so you felt like you ran faster. That was like the one thing I liked about it, was that you could say that I think it was 3 miles instead of 3.1, which makes a big difference.
Like 2.8 or 2.9.
Yeah, maybe even shorter.
That's a challenging course, definitely home course advantage.
It is. And I think it made it worse that we had the ability to practice on it, so you were just reminded of how much you didn't like it. But it's a great course.
Every single time I would be like, oh, the hill's almost over, and then it would just continue.
Yes.
And I liked hills.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, that was tough. I also was not a huge fan of the state course in Hershey, only because the first mile is so flat and you're cruising, and then it's all these hills up and down. And then the hill at the end, of course, is just, I mean, I do love hills. Like, I was going to say Heartwood Acres is probably one of my favorite courses, but that last hill at Hershey is a killer.
Hershey is my favorite course.
Oh my goodness.
It's my favorite course. That's when the true cross country runners come out. Like, the track people that are good at the mile can do well in most courses, but that's made for distance runners.
Which is why I suffered.
Different events come out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So going around Mount Lebanon or the Mount Lebanon area, what were your favorite courses to run around, or your favorite routes, like running routes, whenever you go out on a training run?
Salem.
Mm-hmm.
I like. What is it? The one it was like tracks to. There was like Longview, Woodhaven, and then like something else.
Oh yeah. We did that like every day, Jill.
We did that every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I also, I really like running in Virginia Manor. I like starting at the high school, running to there. Jill was never quite a fan of that, so we didn't do that too often. But there were so many. Again, Mount Lebanon's like the best place to run. I feel like all of the hills everywhere make it a really good place to train. So we're really lucky that you can just go out and run on the streets and you get in a workout every day, because if you're running up Cochrane or you're running up, anywhere, you're going to get in a good training run.
Audrey and I found this really good run one time because we decided it would be a good idea to go running in Foster. And we got lost so badly, like it defied physics. It's like we would try to go down, we needed to go downhill, and we only continued to find uphills. I think we ran uphill for like 15 minutes straight.
It was crazy. I will never forget that as long as I live. We were like 25 minutes late to lift after
I
our
was
run.
terrified. I was like, Coach Schreiner's going to be so mad, and he's not going to believe us that we got lost in the Foster area.
I don't know how we got out either. It was really, really difficult. But I just remember like we both looked at each other. We're like I can't go up this hill. This is like the 8th one. So yeah, we had quite a time running
Yeah.
buddies forever. There's so many funny stories.
Yeah, so if you want a really good run, just go to the Foster area, and it'll keep you busy for a while.
Absolutely.
So now you two kind of came in, throughout high school, you progressed differently. Jillian came in kind of as a freshman and contributed right away, and Audrey progressed throughout high school. And so I was just curious, have each of you guys kind of just talk about kind of your personal high school journey from freshman year to high school or to senior year, and Jillian with you moving in from outside the area. So Jillian, you can go first.
Yeah, so as I said, I moved from like a small town in Virginia in the mountain area, and then moved to Pittsburgh, and it was actually kind of a culture shock a bit. It was just way different than what I was used to, but it was fine. I mean, luckily I moved to a school district where there's like 3 different middle schools, so kind of, everybody just assumed I was either from like the different middle school. Like if someone was from Mellon, they thought I was from Jefferson, or if somebody was from Jefferson, they assumed I was from Mellon, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, I mean, I guess for me is I've never really kept up with like runners' times or whatever, or compared myself to other runners, and I would honestly say that's probably the best advice, because then you kind of just go into meets with just the expectations of doing as best as you can do, and not trying to be like, oh, I finished around this runner last time, so I should be around them again, because sometimes that's not true, and sometimes you develop differently. Sometimes you can, really just have a good race, and I feel like that's more like what happened to Audrey. Like your sophomore year, you got so much better, and it was, really phenomenal. So for me, it's always just been, do better than last year, than what I did. It's not comparing yourself to others or your teammates. It's like, okay, I got 10th last year, so I want to get top 5 this year, So it's just having a continual progression throughout your career. So now, Audrey, it's your podium.
Handing off the mic. Yeah, I think that, it was definitely a very different experience. I started cross country my freshman year in high school, and I really wanted to do it to stay in shape for lacrosse. I was a big lacrosse player, and that was a spring sport, so I definitely wanted to fill up my fall while I was also playing club lacrosse. And I didn't love running, like which is why I wanted to do cross country. I, showed up to the first day of practice, and I remember it was really overwhelming, and a lot of running, and a lot of people who liked to run and wanted to do it all the time. They were in really good shape, so it was a little intimidating. But by the end of my freshman season, I really started to love cross country, and I realized that once I was like able to run a mile or two, it was really fun and enjoyable. So that's sort of how I decided that I wanted to get better, and I wanted to train over the summer. So then the next summer I started going on runs every day and trying to like improve, like Jill was saying, really trying to focus on my performance for my sophomore season. And then after sophomore year, heading into junior year, that was probably one of my best seasons in cross country junior year. So I decided to run track in the spring instead of play lacrosse, because I knew that if I wanted to run at the collegiate level, I needed to have some track times under my belt and run some fast miles and 2 miles. So that's what I did junior year. And it turns out that track is something that I really enjoy. And I think that track racing is something that's made more for me than cross country racing. So it's interesting how it how it turned out. But yeah, I'll never forget my first my first track race junior year. I remember I was running the mile with Jill indoors. I think it was in January. And I thought
Yeah.
you had to like stay in your lane. Like I thought that you like, like a sprinter, I thought if you started in lane 3, you had to stay in there. So it was quite an experience, but I quickly learned.
The confusion you must have felt.
Everybody was like, what is she doing? So yeah, I didn't stay in lane 3. I followed the group and I went inside. But yeah, so that's sort of my story.
Nice, cool. All right, so out of the 3 locations or trips for state championships, Hershey for cross country, Penn State for indoor track, and Shippensburg for outdoor track, what was your favorite kind of venue experience out of the 3 different ones?
I mean, of course, Penn State. Like, that's my track.
Yeah, I would say Penn State.
No, but I mean, it actually does have one of the nicer indoor tracks on the East Coast. Shippensburg, I mean, it's just Shippensburg. There's nothing beyond the track.
There's Cal.
You leave the track venue and you're just in the middle of a farm. Immediately. Hershey would have been nice if we could have gone to the Hershey Park after the meet, which is a good thing to maybe consider in the future. Because I definitely would have liked to do that.
Well, so, back in those days, Coach Schreiner was still the head coach at that point, so that was out of my hands. We make trips over to Chocolate World now. We haven't stayed time for Hershey Park, but maybe something.
That's so fun. Yeah. I think definitely Penn State was one of my favorites. I think that it just felt so, real, like it was a collegiate track and it was just really exciting. And I think the idea of running on a banked track was really cool too, because we didn't have that running indoors in the area at Edinburgh. So that was a fun experience. And I think that's where we had some of our really fun state races. Like I distinctly remember the mile races that were so fun. And it was a small area, so it was actually easier to watch races. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was, you were inside and like you were just a part of the meet no matter what. Whereas like Shippensburg, you could be kind of, going, all around. So definitely Penn State for me.
All right. So kind of, just to shake things up here a little more of a humorous type thing. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier before we started recording, but Jillian, if you want to tell kind of your side of things from the Hershey cross country state meet when the deer happened to arrive in the middle of the race.
Okay. So Shannon was a senior when I was a freshman on the cross country team. Also track. She didn't graduate early. I don't know why I phrased it that way. Anyway, so we're running the state meet. Everything's normal. We finished. Shannon's, she's kind of far back. She's further back than we thought she was going to be. And she finishes and she's just, covered in blood. And we're like, Shannon, what happened? And she's just like, totally bewildered. And she's just like, yeah, a deer hit me in the middle of the race. And I was just down for the count for a while. And it just was this fanatical story, and you really couldn't believe that it happened. But actually, she only got the hoof of the deer. A girl in front of her, took the main body, and she broke her eye socket. It's not that funny. I'm sorry. I was saying it earlier. It's just when you race, you're worried, like, is my shoe gonna come untied? How am I going to do? Am I going to feel tired? I mean, it never once crosses your mind like, oh, I might get hit by a deer in the middle of this race. It's just, I don't know what I would do in that situation. I think I would quit right then and there.
Yeah, it was funny. I was telling you earlier how I was maybe 10, 20 yards from where it happened. So you've got the massive people going, and Shannon was our number 4, number 5 runner for us, because it was you and a couple of the other ones. And so, the pack's going past, and all of a sudden, kind of on the far side of the pack from where I'm standing, I see in this tall grass, I see the grass start moving. Then all of a sudden I see the deer pop up. And it starts running towards the pack. And again, you know, state meet, it's like just over a mile into the race. So it's tightly packed. There's not really any gaps. It just plowed through and, you know, just, I went right to Shannon. And unfortunately, there was a couple other parents there that went to the girl with the broken eye socket. But I went to Shannon and she just kind of was just like stunned, like what just happened? And so I said to her, I said, hey, you're a senior. I mean, if you seem okay, if you want to finish the race, you can. And I remember during that time, Julia Staltari ran past and someone else ran past and they were like, what just happened to her? And so, and credit to Shannon, like you were saying, I mean, she got up, she ran. Not only did she finish, she passed back 2 of our runners to be our 5th runner that day. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And then I remember the pictures afterwards. She had like a hole in her knee in her tights and like had like a fat lip or something from getting knocked over.
My
so
goodness.
that was something that day.
She's a legend.
Yeah. And then, another funny story I was thinking about from back in the day was for Audrey, was at the Lady Spartan Invitational the one year on the 4x800 meter relay. We got disqualified.
Oh.
Remember that? Let me tell that story.
Was that for the shirt?
No, for the gloves.
Oh, for the gloves. Yeah, I was. So I was thinking it was because I was wearing an Under Armour, but no. Yeah, so it was really cold out, and I get super, super, super cold. I was the first one to always wear leggings and tights and Under Armour when everybody else thought it was okay to just have bare arms, which makes me cringe, but it's fine. So I had gloves on in the 4x8. And we found out afterwards that we were disqualified because my gloves with handing off the baton, that was apparently not allowed. So that was really disappointing because I think we won. So yeah, that was a big disappointment. But who knew? I mean, I guess they thought that it was a better grip for you. It's actually, in my opinion, harder to hold a baton with gloves on. But you know, yeah, I almost forgot about that story. Wow.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, because I remember, I mean, they mentioned it at the coaches meeting because I drove down separately since I went to Hempfield. I went down there early, and they mentioned it in the coaches meeting. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I'm not really even paying attention to start of the race, and I see you running with the gloves, and then the starter, the meet official, who he was old when I was in high school. He's still doing meets now. Just saw him last spring. He says, "Oh, you're disqualified," because he was a rule follower, and so I was like, "Oh man!" Yeah,
it was not a fun time.
To wear gloves, holding a baton.
Yeah, so don't do that.
Yeah, make sure you follow the rules of that.
Wow,
all right,
what a memory.
So shifting kind of the transition from high school to college, I want to ask you guys about your college recruiting process. How did you end up deciding on Penn State and William & Mary? What other schools were you thinking about? What was the criteria you guys were looking for when you were looking for colleges?
The other schools I was looking at, it was Pitt, the Coast Guard Academy, and Penn State. I had decided, because I never thought I was going to run in college, that I would only run in college if I got a scholarship. So I was only looking at schools that were going to offer me a scholarship, which, I mean, all the power to walk-ons, but like for me, it really was like a massive time commitment. It's like 30 hours a week and you're in college. I mean, it's like a part-time job. It's more than a part-time job. So I wanted a good mix. I wanted a school that was a good academic school as well as athletics. I think sometimes people go to schools just for the athletics, and I think that's not maybe the smartest idea, because at the end of the day, like, you have to get a real job and you have to start working. And if you're only going to a school because you want to run, I mean, even if you're the best runner in the world, most people retire in their 30s, I mean, you have to have a plan for afterwards. So I definitely just wanted, and I really wanted it to be like a well-known school. I never wanted to go to a school and then have to tell people where it was. So I think I was successful with that.
Yeah, and I think sort of similarly. So I was looking at very different schools. I was looking at University of Dayton was a school, and I was looking there because I liked, the distance. I didn't want to be like crazy far away. I knew that, like geographically, I didn't want to be super, super far away from Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania. So I started looking at Dayton. I looked at Pitt. I looked at, a bunch of different schools. I really didn't know where I wanted to go. And then I looked at William and Mary. And I was actually, I started looking there because I know that their cross country team had just had a super awesome season. So it was something I came across as I was searching for schools. But ultimately, I decided on William and Mary because of its academic reputation and knowing that, I did want to go to the School of Education and become a teacher. And that was definitely something that, they were known for. And I wanted to make that jump. But I think that I was still, I didn't want to commit to anything until taking an official visit. And on my official visit, I think I went on four official visits. But going to William and Mary was, it's like the second I got there and the second I met the team, I knew that that was where I wanted to go. Just the team community was really important to me. And when I had visited some of the other schools, it was, a little bit different than I wanted. I wanted a really strong, tight-knit community where the girls were caring and kind and sort of like sisters. And that's ultimately what I found there. So it was really just the whole package. And it was like the second I got there and I visited, I was like, I'm going here, So it sort of made the decision for me, which was really nice.
I feel like Audrey's like the very girly one out of us. I'm like very numbers and like
we're like, super different if you can't tell.
I'm like, go to a school that's well ranked. Everything else can work itself out.
Yes.
That
brings up the quote I always remember from Jill in high school. It was before a section dual meet against a couple teams that were maybe middle of the pack, kind of up and comers, but not like like they were going to challenge us at all. And you guys were really good, back to back Whippy Old champ from a team standpoint. But Joe just goes, we just need to in the first mile just crush their spirit and crush their soul and just get it over with.
That does sound like me.
It does.
It really does.
Right. So now you're in college. And again, you guys weren't just at college, picking up the sweatsuits and warm-ups and like you're really excited to be on the team. You guys were big time contributors to your college teams that ran at regionals and everything. So ultimately, what's some of the biggest differences between training and competing in high school versus training and competing in college?
Yeah, I think honestly everything. I think that everything is so different competing in college. And it's really, it really is a lifestyle. It is sort of like Jill was saying, it's a full-time job. It is not something to just be a part of. It's really, all day, every day, from the minute you wake up, you're in a training mode in some sorts. You have double runs, you have to do your stretching routines. There's a lot to take care of. And I think that even with the racing piece, it's, even more of a time commitment with traveling and, getting on a plane, every 10 days to go to a meet and, miss classes and things like that. So I would say just across the board, just really, really different. But I think specifically to racing, something that's really different, at least for me, was strategy. I feel like in high school, a lot of the times racing, specifically, cross country races and then the mile, it was sort of just, I don't know, I would sort of just do it and, maybe did the same thing every time. And especially with the mile, Kelsey and I would just kind of go and she was just going to run and I was just going to follow her. I think in college is where a lot of strategies developed, and it was, especially for cross country, it was so hard to, well, should I go really fast at first? How should I do this? And we were really, really focused on, picking other jerseys and, doing all of these all of these different strategies that we had going. And then for track, really focusing on, you know, negative splits and how are we going to finish the race and things like that. So yeah, from the lifestyle to the racing, everything was just really different. But it was, I mean, a really awesome experience. And yes, it's tiring and it's a lot of time, but it really is incredible. And you become so close with your teammates. And not to say that you don't become close in high school, but just to think of all the time in college. I mean, it's like all day you're just with these people and you're working towards the same goal. So it really is special.
Yeah, I would say one thing is in college, especially if you are a point contributor, you're a lot more like an employee. So if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's not going to be coach shut, being like, hey, could you maybe like get your life together? Your coach is going to have a meeting with you and they're going to be like, what's going on? You need to tell me everything that's going on. And they're going to come up with a training plan and they're going to figure out what's causing these issues. So it's definitely way more like, I don't know, calculated. I mean, you still will have a close relationship with your coach. You're spending, 30 hours a week with them. You're traveling with them, but you're kind of responsible for their paychecks in a way. So if they're, banking on you being, like all Big Ten or, being at nationals and doing well at nationals, you have to do that and you have to get, you have to get the team at a certain point. So it's definitely just like putting in the work and doing everything you can. And it's very no nonsense. It's not like high school. Like in high school, you can have fun and you can, not contribute and just do it to keep in shape. And that's totally fine. And that's also an option, but you're not going to find people like that in college.
All right. Now the next thing's kind of one of the tougher things or not as fun things to talk about, but I think really important for the high school runners to hear about is injuries. And so just curious if you guys could kind of just talk about some of the injuries you went through, what it was like going through them, the process to get back to the level that you reached then at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, Audrey, you can go first because I think you have to leave soon.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's my alarm. I have like 3 minutes. I have a meeting. But yeah, I would say injuries, that's definitely, like you said, it's not something that's super fun, but it does come up, especially at the collegiate level. Once your training programs are very, very different than high school. That's another change I didn't quite mention, but it's very individualized, at least the program that I was in at William and Mary. So, they were sort of experimenting, the first few years. And for example, we didn't run very high mileage in high school. So my freshman year, I was only running about 35, 40 miles. And then sophomore year was like, okay, you handled that really well. Let's try and do, 50, 55 and then bump it up. But the more you bump it up is sort of where it's really, really important to be extra careful, taking care of your body and your legs and your nutrition and everything. So I was injury free my freshman and sophomore year. And then at the end of my junior year in my track season, I suffered a hip injury. And that is so I had my first stress fracture. And it was definitely really, really difficult. Because with the hip, I wasn't really able to do anything. So it was right before the conference meet for outdoor track, and I was set to run in a relay, set to run the 1500. But it's something that, I had never had an injury before. And looking back on it, it's something to definitely learn from because, I didn't quite know the difference between just little aches and pains and a true injury. And, I'm someone who's, I can be sort of stubborn and I wanted to keep running through it. And I wanted to do what my coaches were asking me to. So I probably, ran through, a difficult hip injury for a long time, but it turned out that, I think that looking back, just knowing the difference between, when you should stop and, what you should do throughout that process. And I think, one thing that I did do right is going to the training room and seeking help, right away. So when you do have, when you are having aches and pains, even if it's something that's really minor, not just disregarding it and saying like, oh, it's just an ache and pain, just aches and pains. It's something you do need to take care of because it can very quickly become a more serious injury. And so that's on the front end of it. But then on the other end of it, when you're recovering from your injury, it's really important to make sure that you're taking it slow and, just coming back with an easy comeback, because a lot of injuries, especially stress fractures, you can be out for such a long time. So it's important that even if you're feeling really good and you're really excited to start running again, it's not good to just, all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to start running normally again because my body is healed. It's important to take it really easy. And that's how I ended up with my second stress fracture, was just sort of a really fast change, with my coach trying to get ready for the cross country season for my senior year. And I ended up being out the whole year. So it wasn't a great experience. And that was with my sacrum. So it's important to just take it easy. And as Jill knows too, the pool becomes your best friend. Swimming is awesome for no impact, and learn to love cross training, because biking and swimming, yes, it's not running, but it will get you in fantastic shape. And, it's something to do even when you're not injured to prevent injury. So I'm going to leave on that note, though. I hate to, but I do have, in 1 minute, I have a meeting with school. So thank you so much for having us here today. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Bye, girls.
Yeah, so I can talk about my experience, because I had a stress fracture every single year of college, and always in the winter. So I would lose all of my base mileage from cross country. And every single year I would do outdoor track. So I would build up everything again. And so kind of what I learned in my experience, which I think is funny, like Coach Ryan, as you said, like people think, oh, with running, you have to run all the time. Absolutely not true. That is a fallacy. I was able to cross train phenomenally. I was able to keep in amazing shape. I had my sacrum stress fracture, which can keep people out of running for a year. I cross trained. I came back, and I think I got 10th at nationals that year for outdoor track. So, I mean, absolutely not. If you're injured and you think you're done for the year, if you're cross training properly, if you're taking care of it properly, and you come back on the timelines, you can still have a good outdoor track season. You can still have a good indoor track season. It's all about getting the help at the right time, because, and this would always kind of annoy me, as people would be like, oh, I just like pulled my muscle. I would say for about every single injury, it's about a 4 to 8 week recovery period, regardless if it's bone, muscle, anything. Your body has to heal. You have to train again. You have to get back up to speed again. But if you cross train diligently and you do everything diligently, you can come back and be in good shape. Because really with running, the only thing you need is for your leg muscles to have, to get used to having lactic and being sore, and you need a good like respiratory system. You can get that with cross training. So, I mean, to me, it's just really, yeah, as Audrey said, learning to love cross training, learning to love the bike, ellipticals, swimming, really putting in all the work.
Jillian, did you go to do you know Lauren Costa from West A?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I work with her a lot from her before her junior and senior year in high school, and then periodically through college. And
yes.
Yeah, working with her as like 3-time state place winner for the 100. Even though I worked with a lot of like speed athletes as well, but her tangibly already being at a high level was awesome, because she was awesome as it was, but just as a person. But the challenge with her was like she was already really fast. So how do we make her faster? So that's why I was wondering, at Penn State, the same timeline, I think that she was there, that you would have been there.
Yeah, she was about a year younger than me. She made the travel team a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that actually Coach Shutt is really good at, is like he gives you guys the mileage and the tools necessary to hit good times that can take you to the next level. Like you will have really good training with him. I think he's a great coach. I think he really knows what he's doing, but he's not going to overtrain you so much that when you get to college, there's nowhere to go. So like, yeah, maybe you get to the cross country line and you think like, oh, I only do this many miles, but I know that these girls run this many miles. I mean, you guys run more than I did in high school. I think with Coach Joyner, we literally ran like 25 to 30 miles a week, maybe. And so when you get to college, at a college level, you know, people are running like 70 to 80 miles. But there were also people in high school that were running 60 miles. You know, a 10-mile difference is nothing. I mean, to me, that's really nothing. The fitness you gain in a 10-mile differential is minimal. I think it's negligible. So with Coach Shutt, like, yeah, he's giving you a good base mileage where you're going to hit good times, you're going to get good training, and you're going to be in amazing shape. You're never going to be at a disadvantage when you're on the start line, but he's also allowing you the room to grow and get better as you get older. So I think that's also very important to remember, is that especially with running, you can't look at everything in the short term. Like with running, you have to remember, yeah, it's cross country season, but you know, track goes until May in high school, I think. So it's a long year, and it's an even longer running time. I mean, it's 4 years in high school, potentially 4 years in college. That's 8 years. You have to allow yourself the room to grow over an 8-year time period. So it's also important to remember your freshman year to not just go in and want to do, you know, the absolute most, because you're already going to be improving from middle school. So you're already going to have this huge, you know, jump in improvement, and to remember that you want to get better every single year.
Awesome. Hey, I got to jump. I got to go to a soccer meeting. But
Okay.
Jillian, nice to meet you. Good to see you, girls. Coach, thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Nice
Coach.
to meet you.
All right. See you guys.
All right. So my next question for Jillian, and kind of building off of something that you kind of just glossed over.
Yeah.
You finished 10th in the NCAAs in the country in the 10,000 meters. And so that in itself is really cool. So just tell these guys times for perspectives, and people watch the video. I have it up over here. So you ran 33:29 that day for a 10K on the track. So putting that in perspective, that's a couple of 16:45 5Ks back to back without stopping on the track, which is crazy fast. And so, you know, just wrapping my brain around that. So here's the question, though, for these guys and for people who watch this.
Yeah.
What is the most mentally challenging? 10,000 meters on the track outdoors, 5,000 meters on the track indoors, or a 6K cross-country race in the mud and the rain or the snow or something?
I'm going to tell you my answer, and I feel like you're really not going to like it. The 10,000 meters is actually, okay, I would say the 5,000 meters indoor is actually not bad at all. It feels incredibly short because when you're at the collegiate level, I mean, I think indoors my best time was 16 minutes and 1 second, indoor 5,000 meters. And that's really not a long time to be racing. You're also like with a pack, and it's very strategic in college. So like in high school, as Audrey said, you kind of just run as fast as you can for as long as you can. But in high school, your coach is going to be yelling splits at you. You're going to go in with a plan. You're going to go in with a target of what you want to hit your 400s in. So it's completely different. The mud and the rain isn't too bad either. You know, everybody has to deal with the weather. I never let my teammates complain about the weather as like a legitimate reason as to why they did bad, because everybody has the same weather, you know? So if you did bad, everybody should have done bad. So if people were still running good times, you also could have ran a good time. The 10,000 meters is actually the most challenging, and for a different way. And it was because it really, really beat up my feet. I would get like, I would say 20 laps in and my feet would just kill me, like, because I raced in spikes, and I think I lost 3 toenails because of the 10,000 meter. And yeah, like it was really painful. I would say there were probably like 4 laps where I was just like, my feet hurt so bad right now.
So again, just kind of quantify that. So how many laps is a 10K on an outdoor track, and how many laps is a 5K on an indoor 200-meter track?
So they're both 25.
Nice. That's a lot of times around there. 6 miles on an outdoor track. It's a long way. All right.
Yeah.
Last kind of two-part question I have, then I'll let these two knuckleheads jump in and ask you some questions. They've been doing a good job of hearing all this. So after Penn State, you took a maybe non-conventional route that most, kids from the United States don't always do. So kind of talk about what you've been doing for the last 2 years, essentially.
Okay, so I graduated from Penn State, and then I decided to do my master's in finance in France. So I went to South France, and I was there for a year, and I got my master's in finance. I'm actually finishing my thesis now, so that's super exciting. I'll be completely graduated in June. After that, I got an internship at Adidas in Germany, and that's where the headquarters are. So I'm currently at the headquarters. And that's actually turned into now what I have is a full-time position. And I'm again like in South Germany in Bayern. I don't know if you're familiar with German geographic locations. And so yeah, I've been abroad now for over a year and a half, and I think it's an amazing opportunity and something that I learned that I wish I would have known when I was in high school and I was looking at colleges is that schools in Europe are way cheaper than in the United States, and also most programs are offered in English, especially business. If it's an accredited business school, it's offered in English because that's one of the qualifications, that's one of the criteria they have to meet, because English is the international language of commerce, so you have to know English. And it's definitely just been like an amazing opportunity. And I think it's something that you should look at, and not just as a study abroad, like actually, applying to the school abroad, going to the school abroad. It's something that a lot of kids in Europe do. They will just go to other countries for their entire bachelor's or for their entire program. And it's something that I think should be more widely known in the US, because I do think it's an amazing opportunity, not only just to save money for your parents or yourself, but also just to learn other cultures and to get to know other people and to understand what it means to actually be like an independent. Yeah, it's been a super fulfilling experience. I've loved every moment of it.
All right. So Caroline and Grace, what do you got for Jillian?
Well, I guess my question is, what was it hard to, I guess, get? How many people are able to run in college each year? Or is it hard to be able to do that, or is it, I guess easier? I don't know. Just, I guess just what is the what are the chances that you'll be able to run in college? I guess.
Yeah, and that totally depends on what level you want to do it at. I mean, if you're talking D3, D2, D1, they're completely different levels. If I can really only speak for D1 because that's what I'm most familiar with. And with D1, I would say there are, certain times that you're expected to hit, just kind of as like a baseline. But I mean, to put in perspective, I definitely never thought I was going to be able to run in college in 1,000 years. I would say even my sophomore or junior year of high school, I never thought I would get recruited or that I would run a good enough time to get recruited. So I mean, it's definitely not something where I think you should go in thinking like, oh, it's such a small chance. I mean, if you look at statistics, it is like to run at the D1 level, you are the top 1% in your field. Do I think that's the truth? Not necessarily. I think that, a lot of times the people that were the walk-ons on our team, they just reached out to the coach, gave the coach their times, and they decided whether or not they would let you on, whether or not you had potential. So it's definitely not impossible. I would say it's also definitely not out of the realm to think about. Like if that's something you want to do, you should start looking at college times. You should start looking at what college people let onto their rosters. But But yeah, I mean, if that's your goal, you have to remember that's your goal and you have to work towards it. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you brought up too about walk-ons contributing, because your high school teammate had a pretty nice career at Penn State also there, Julie Kajanthik.
Yes, yeah.
Was it school record? Which relay was she on?
The DMR, distance medley.
That's right. Yeah, not too bad. So
yeah.
All right, Grace, what do you got?
Okay, so how did you like prevent people from getting into your head and like influencing kind of your approach to running? Like sometimes I feel like running isn't always like, I don't always want to get up and run. And so like, how did you motivate yourself?
Yeah, I would say definitely I'm definitely not the person that where I just love to go on a long run. That's never been, a dream of mine. I don't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, I would love to run 14 miles today, but that was on my training plan, so that's what I did. I would say one thing I really learned in college, I also feel like Coach Shutt won't like this answer, so I apologize in advance. When you get to the collegiate level, you realize distance runners are a bit strange, and you kind of realize like they just aren't normal people. And if you let somebody like that get in your head, I mean, they really do like have these crazy schedules and these like crazy, I don't know, taboos or like rituals they have before they race. And to me, to let somebody like that in your head is kind of silly. And you realize that you raced with them in high school. And so they were doing that in high school as well. So, I mean, one thing is just to realize like, or at least what I would always think is, you get to the starting line, and whatever you have when you get to the starting line is whatever you have. If you put in the work, if you've done everything you should have done, you should have a good race. If you feel like you haven't put in the work and you're not ready for the race, I mean, that's on you. You've had, months and months to prepare for this. So you kind of just have to believe in yourself, believe in your training. And as corny as it sounds, like you have to see what happens. But also to me, racing is why I run. I don't run every day just to run every day. I run every day to race. So I legitimately just want to test myself and see what my fitness is at, how I can do, what's the best I can do today.
All right, either of you guys got any other questions? I got another one. Are you training right now, like for any half marathons or marathons? And if you have, or whatever you're doing now, how has your training changed since the COVID-19?
For me right now, I'm not really training for anything. I do like 20 to 30-minute runs to keep in shape, and because that's about all I can stand to do to keep in shape. I also don't really think you need much more than that, just like as a regular person. I've also had a lot of injuries where I kind of just I wanted to take a break from running. Not like forever, but more just being able to do like a hobby jogging type of thing. I had my 8 years of competing at a high level. That was good for me. Yeah, COVID-19 hasn't really affected my training at all. I feel like if anything, I was running more because there's nothing else to do. What else are you going to do? Are you going to watch Netflix again for an hour, or will you go for a run and feel a little bit better about yourself? So yeah, it was, I feel like I've run more during COVID-19 because it kind of has given me like a more of a structure to my day. So yeah.
Cool, great. So I wanted to wrap up. I didn't do this earlier. I had my other screen up here. Just wanted to kind of just kind of embarrass you and Audrey. And Audrey will have to go back and watch the video. But yeah, just some of your high school accomplishments and everything. So Audrey's high school PR, she ran 2:21 in the open 8 and maybe faster on a relay. She was a member of the 148 relay, the one whip mules. I think her senior year or junior year.
Yeah, she used to run like 2:18 on relays.
Yeah. The mile, she's number 2 Mount Lebanon all time at 4:58.25. It was 1600. And then 2 miles, she went 11:08. That's number 4 Mount Lebanon all time. And for Jillian, you ran. Did you run an 800 in high school?
Yeah, I did. It's on my miles, but 2:38.
Yeah.
I think think I ran that like during my 5Ks in college.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so even the mile, you really didn't focus on too much. What I
No.
have here is 5:07 at one of our dual
Yeah.
meets. So you're
Yeah.
on that list. But the 3,200 was kind of your go-to. You ran 10:53, and that got you in the state, 5th in the state your senior year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's some pretty impressive things. And the other thing I want to bring up, and again, Audrey will have to go back and look at this, was for you guys, your junior year at the Whippeal cross country meet, that you guys just dominated. You went 3, 4, 6, 7. So you, Jillian, were third that day at Whippeals. Kelsey was fourth. Julie Kajancic, who we mentioned, was sixth, and then Audrey was seventh. So 4 Mount Lebanon people in the top 10. And I remember after the race, and then after that is Callie Gunzenhauser, 29, and Grace Tandon, a.k.a. Daya, 41st, and Caitlin Walsh. But I remember, like, the race going on, you guys are crushing it. Coach Schreiner at the finish line is like, I don't know, do you think we won? Do you think we won? And we did. So, yeah, you guys scored 49 points that day, and second place was 97 points. So that was one of the most dominating, like, big-time performances I've ever seen or been a part of. And then that year you finished 5th at states, and then the next year you guys finished 3rd at states. So in cross country. So those are some of my highlights from that.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. It was definitely a very good team. Yeah, I think we just had a real big respect for one another, especially. I can notice that now, like, having had my college experiences, really I think we all understood our place on the team.
Nice, cool. Yeah. All right, Grace or Caroline, any parting words for us?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
All right. Well,
no problem.
Yeah, thanks, Grace and Caroline, for being a part of this, and thanks, Jillian and Audrey. We'll thank her again. This is really cool, and yeah, we recorded it. So again, tons more people. I had 2 people email me saying they couldn't make it, so they were saying, "Is there any way we can do it?" So check out the video. So yeah, I really appreciate it. It's probably past your bedtime there over in Germany, so.
Yeah, it's 10:20 now, so I'll be going to sleep after this.
Definitely. So we'll get going here. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch you soon, and stay in touch.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Bye.